Last Korea just got another brand new balance patch, and oh dear, it's shifting up the meta quite big, so let's take a look. First of all, guys, before we get into balance patch, this is going to be developed comment, so to put it simple, this is a Kazeros the first race patch. It's trying to put the bottom specs more in line with the upper specs. It's based on the Q3 of Mortem Gate 2, and if their balance patch is a bit too much, they will tone it back before Kazeros comes out in around 2 weeks for Korea. So let's get started, guys, with all of the buffs and nerfs right now. Let's start off with the warriors. We're gonna have Berserker. With Berserker's technique, it's gonna get ourselves a nerf in the burst, 3% right here, and a 0.6% for every single one of them. And of course, it's quite a crazy nerf, but Berserker's technique has actually been very strong, especially in Korea. Koreans have been pumping on this class, and even Saint One that mains this class says, yes, it was definitely due for a nerf. Okay, so we got that nerf right here. We got a buff for Paladin DPS is to put it more in line with Valkyrie DPS, so it gets a nice 7% increase, which is actually very good. So DPS Paladin mains, enjoy your 7% buff. Up next, we have ourselves Gravity Train Destroyer getting some love. Gets 2.4% in PvE damage. As well, their T-skill gets 8.1%, which is insane. Rage Hammer gets a nerf, though, by 2%. And we can see as well that Gravity Training on its own gets another nice 4% buff. Okay, very interesting. So, of course, if I'm ever wrong about any of these classes, I don't play all of them. But if I'm doing something or saying something wrong, let me know. But you guys can, of course, read what's on the screen. Up next, we have ourselves, of course, the Slayer getting a nice 3.3% buff all around the globe, which is very good. So I don't want that Slayer, you know, it's treating me pretty well. Last night as well in Paradise, I did manage to get myself a top 3 position. So maybe Slayer will see a return in my roster being honed. We'll see. All right, up next, guys, Material Artists. Taijutsu Scrapper, very interesting buff. Gets a 8% increase on stamina skill damage. Wow, this is kind of crazy, guys. That's like it's a lot of damage. I'll be honest, that's a lot of damage. We have ourselves then up next. We have Soulfist getting a nerf, pretty warranted. I'm gonna be honest. 2.6% nerf on all skills. It is what it is. Glavier then on the XT skill, so the X skill, gets a nice buff as well from 66 to 72%, so another 6% increase on that. So that's pretty nice. I don't know how much this actually will be in total. Maybe this is like gonna be like a 2% buff, 3% buff. Let me know, of course, in the comment section down below. Because sadly, we only have like one skill, and sometimes it's for everything, and sometimes just like impacting a small part of a kit. But at least it's a buff, so that's pretty nice. The Galavius will be happy about that. Striker, interestingly, gets not really a big nerf, but Esso gets a buff. So Esso T-skill, if I'm correct, gets a 7.1% buff. Esoteric Focus Alignment Tree gets another 3.5% buff, which is good. And then Death Blow gets, of course, a nerf of 1.5% per orb. So I think this actually is a bigger nerf than it seems, because, of course, you use multiple orbs in Eso. So this could be like a 4 or 5% nerf even. So, like, but it was kind of needed. It is what it is. So Strikers, Eso mains, yay. Deathblow mains, So it is what it is. Alright. Up next, guys, we have ourselves the Gunners. We'll start off with Artillerist. Okay. So this is an interesting one, in my opinion. Barrage has been nerfed by 3%. And the reason why it's been nerfed, and a lot of people think this way, because currently Barrage is not that strong. It's not that strong. It probably is that Barrage can ignore a lot of Kazeros' mechanics, allegedly, I would say, from this nerf. So, you know, the uptime of Barrage gets a lot higher in Kazeros, and that's why it's gotten a nerf to compensate for that survivability. We see Overheat, which is going to be a firepower skill, does get a 6% buff, which is very nice. So firepower mains are very happy about that one. Up next, we have ourselves Dead Eye. The strategic rep gets a skill nerf of 2%. You know, kind of sad, it is what it is. But Pistolier mains, holy to the moon, they get a nice 9% damage buff. Of course, it's not going to make them even average tier. Pistolier was really weak. But, you know, 9% is 9%. I think they'll definitely take that. Sharpshooter The Hawk got a nice little power buff as well, 4%. So that's going to be very nice for those few LC sharpshooter mains out there. We have ourselves Machinist getting a nice 3% buff on the enhanced enchanted core. So still not going to be enough, I'm gonna be honest, but you know, it is something. And then I'm sorry guys, Gunslingers had their 1 week of fun and they got hit with a nerf. So all skill damage got minus 2.1%. And then we see that pacifists do get a little bit of a buff. So you know, it's like a time to hunt nerf and like Peacemaker, like a little bit like equalizer buff in response. Yep. It's okay. We then have the mages. This is one of the more questionable buffs, in my opinion. Reflux already currently is very strong, guys. Reflux is doing very well. We'll take a look at some of the numbers later, guys. It gets a 7% base buff. It's insane. I don't know what they were smoking, but 7% on Reflux, if they're probably doing absolute dog in Korea, but in EU and NA, Reflux has been pumping and they get a 7% buff. That is insane. Arcana gets a Emperor buff, which apparently is just like kind of a 3% buff, which is very nice. So that's actually very good. And then Summoner, another questionable buff. The Pets for CO gets a 4% buff as well. And CO was actually doing very, very, very good and gets another 4%. So Summoner and Sorc so far has been the most questionable buffs. But don't worry, we get something way more insane, and I'll show you why. First of all, Shadow Hunters are happy with their little buff, 4.6% in PvE. Nothing too crazy. They definitely need a little bit more, but it is what it is. We'll skip over Deathblade. We'll go in that in a little second. Reapers had their 2 seconds of fame as well. They got a 8% nerf for Lunar, which is number 1 currently. 8% nerf on that. And Hunger got a 4% buff. So, you know, I'm sorry, Lunar Reaper mains. You had fun for one patch once again. Soul Eater Knight's Edge gets a buff of 6% as well. So that's pretty cool. But here's the big one, guys. Deathblade Surge was currently underperforming and it got a buff, and it's not a small one either. Limit Break on reaching max Surge enhancement stacks, the compression effect goes up from 80% to 105%. And I am not sure if I read this correctly, but if we know that Surge does around 60% of the damage, that means that this is a 15% damage buff, which is insane. Of course, I could be wrong about this. Let me know in the comment section down below if I'm wrong in like assuming this, but I think that's literally how I'm reading this, and this is literally a 15% buff. And we'll see later what the impact of a 15% actually is. It's crazy. Going down, we have DPS Artist getting a little bit of a DPS buff, 7%. It needed it. It is what it is. Airmancer on Wind Fury gets a 5.4% damage buff, so that's actually nice. Airmancer has not gotten that much love lately, so 5.4% is pretty good as well. Definitely was needed. And of course, Wild Soul, no, it's not getting a buff. It's getting a giga nerf, guys. This is around a 7.5 or 8.5% nerf. It's crazy. Again, get slammed with the nerf hammer. It's insane. I think it's 7.5%. Like, I am personally swapping to the other spec now. Like, it's gonna keep on nerfing. And you know, it is what it is. I'm not gonna keep sitting here and taking like 10% nerves every single patch. It is, you know, Wild Soul is just sadly, it's still good, guys. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not in the bin, it's not like bottom DPS now, but I feel like every single time Wild Soul's in this patch list, it gets nerfed by 5 to 7, 8%. It's a bit too much for me, so I'm swapping to the Swift one, which technically never got a nerf at all. So, yeah, we're just gonna play that instead. So first of all, for Reflux, it's gonna go to 196 million DPS in Q3. So we're gonna look right now, 196 million DPS. So it's gonna sit quite comfortably right now in the spot that Robo Spirit is sitting. And of course, Robo Spirit is gonna go down. So currently, it would be rank 5 on the list. But of course, Rally's gonna get a nerf, so it's probably will be rank 4 with these buffs. And that's why it's kind of insane that it got that much. So Reflux already to the moon. Geo Summoner is gonna go to a whopping 189 million Q3. So that's going to be sitting around here. So in between Rage Hammer and First Intention. So it's still like flopped up from all the way at the bottom here to almost the top, which is kind of crazy as well. Last but not least, guys, Surge. Of course, 60% of their damage is going to be Surge. Gets a 25% buff, so it's 15%. So it's 182.1 times 1.15. 209 mil DPS. The top one right now is 207. So it shows playing Blade will always reward you, and you will just end up after a miraculous patch at #1 once again. So it will of course overtake Lunar. Lunar does get a nerf. Time to Hunt gets a nerf. Ferelli gets a nerf. EO gets a nerf. So literally it will sit on #1 after this patch, and I've even checked it on average. I've checked it on Q1 as well in my own time, in every single situation, because you're like, oh, Q3 is like the best players, right? Like they're performing really well in the raid. On like Q1 average players, Q3 Surge Blade is all #1 by a few million DPS as well. It's not just barely, it's a few million DPS. That's gonna be all the changes for the balance patch, guys, and I hope you guys did enjoy. Let me know, is your class buffed? Is it nerfed? Is it changed? For me, my breaker didn't get a change. My Wild Soul's nerfed, and my DPS board was luckily not touched. I'm happy about that one, but, you know, I wish my breaker had a little bit of love in there. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys wish would have changed more, or they think something was too harsh or something. I think most of them were kind of warranted. I know a lot of people are like, Soul Fist buff nerf wasn't good. But they are very, very overperforming. It is what it is, you know, guys. Just take the L. It's a lot of nerf. At least it's not like a 7% like Wild Soul has. And you guys are literally on the same tier. It is, you know, it's fine. But yeah, I think to be honest, it's gonna wrap it up for me. If you guys did enjoy, I would highly appreciate a like down below, guys. Subscribe if you're new. See you guys soon again for another video. Take care, love, bye. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys again soon for another one. Take care.